Welcome. Happy Monday before Thanksgiving. I'm starting to get the vibes that you guys have already been eating a lot of turkey and you're ready for a cat nap. So we got to bring the energy a little bit today. I'm very, very glad and grateful that you all are here. Again, thank you for allowing me and showing me a little bit of grace from last week. I myself was very much under the weather. So thank you for being here. I'm sure Todd lit your hair on fire like he's supposed to. Probably not as quite as good as me, but that's okay. That is A-okay. I totally understand. All right. I want to hear something. What worked, what didn't from last week? Brad, you are in my top left. Start us off. What worked, what didn't?
What worked? Did a lot of engagement last week, had a lot of networking events.
Excellent.
I did write some handwritten notes out to some other agents from different brokerages and passed them out at an awards banquet. Got all kinds of accolades for that.
Awesome.
Also picked up 2 lunch appointments from that event as well. It's going to happen next week. So,
well done, Mr. Ramey. Love it. Ken, what about you? What worked, what didn't? Oh, and you are muted, sir. Ken, there we go.
So I called an agent that I've known for quite some time. She's a great agent, done a few deals with her, 3 or 4. And she's over at another company, Black Sign. And I told her I'd love to have her over here, but she said she's happy where she's at. I knew she was entrenched, but we've also had several agents leave that company and come here, so I wanted to reach out to her.
Yeah.
I reached out with an agent that was with us before, and she left. But I pulled her data, and she hadn't done anything. And so I reached out to her and asked her why, and her circumstances have changed, and I don't believe she would be a good fit. I sent out some texts to some co-ops and wrote some notes. And then I sent a Thanksgiving text to some other agents. And then an agent that I've been pursuing for quite some time because she was here. I loved her. She left. I reached out to her again, and I will stay in touch with her.
How long ago did she leave?
Oh, probably 6 months. She went over to Max. Has a relationship over there, stronger than ours, evidently.
Yeah, they're telling you that. It ain't there yet. I got a question for you guys. Brian, do you guys track what happens to an agent's business when they leave? Like their first 12 months?
So I've got access to some data where I can do that. I have it routinely. I mean, you guys on the call tell me if you guys are tracking agents that come out of your offices. What I am seeing, because I've gone back, I recently tied into this program that gives me the data.
Yeah.
I've gone back and looked at a number of our agents, and it is routine for an agent to lose about 30% of their business the 12 months after they leave the company.
Do you track when they do join as well?
I'm sorry, when they do join.
When they join you, do you track what the increase in their business?
I have not gotten that granular on it, not yet.
So I would challenge you guys to do that. So go back through and I don't know, maybe the last 6 months worth of the agents you've brought on. Heck, even push it back to a year so you have a full year's worth of data. And you can say, hey, listen, Brian, on average, an agent, when they join our organization within their first 12 months, they see an increase of 70.7% in their business. Do you want to have a 70% raise just by breathing the air that we breathe? It's hard for people to sort of like give you the middle finger when you're like, I'm just working in facts. Like, this is just factual. This is just data. I'm sure you have a really great cubicle made over there at the Remax office, but are they helping you pay the mortgage? Right? All those different things. So especially when an agent leaves, this is great information to have. So when Brad says to me, hey, knock, 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 the dreaded got a minute, Hey, Jeff, do you have a minute? Yeah, sure. Hey, I'm thinking about leaving. Where are you going? It doesn't really matter because, Brad, what I can tell you is you're going to see a decrease in your business of roughly 49%. Do you want me to call your wife, or should you call your wife and tell her how bad of a decision that might be? Right. So you got to be able to have some of that vibrato, but you got to also have the information that's really, really impactful. And it's the same kind of stuff that we're going to be talking about today of setting the appointment, right? Like there's objections that we're getting. You've got to have some data that will back it up. So we'll make sure we tackle that today. Jeff, what about you? Tell me something that was working and what didn't work last week.
Well, I went to two open houses for other agents that I've never done before, so that was kind of different.
Nice. Did you follow the process?
I don't know if I followed it 100%, but
come on.
Hey, I went to it and got out of my comfort zone. Okay?
Good deal.
Went to 6 different brokers opens this last week and had good conversation with the agents that were there. Done my co-op calls, called several people on my hit list, and I've called 10 people today to on my hit list, just wishing them a happy Thanksgiving.
Heck yeah. Love it. Good work. Renee, good afternoon.
Hi.
What worked, what didn't from last week?
I am getting good engagement on the co-op stuff, talking about my agents. When I had a couple that closed last week and I reached out to them and I was like, hey, how did closing go? Jessica said that you were great to work with, just all of that stuff. And so I'm getting engagement there.
Excellent. That's what we like to hear. What didn't work last week?
So he challenged us, Todd challenged us to follow everybody on everybody on our list on their social medias. And holy bejeez, it's really difficult to find them, especially like on Instagram, where it's not necessarily their name. It's
yeah.
That did not work real well.
Okay. All right. Now, what I would say, and I think Todd would echo these thoughts as well, is if you can't find them within like the first 15 seconds, move on to the next person. You'll eventually stumble across them. You might see them on someone else's feed. So just keep that in mind. Don't be like, golly, I didn't get through the D's of, the last name of the D's for Pete's sake. So don't get trapped into that too bad. Michael, what about you?
Yeah, a lot worked from last week. I went to 2 industry events last week. Great engagement, great conversations before both events. I had been sending out a lot of handwritten notes, kind of like Brad had done, and it was really gratifying and really encouraging, honestly, to meet a lot of those agents face to face for them to thank me. That was just great engagement, right? I also scheduled a few appointments based off that. I've been able to book consistent appointments, which is great. I'm working on 2 that are pretty heavy hitters. I had a nice lunch today and I have another 4:00 tomorrow. So the appointment scheduling is great as of right now. Co-op calls are consistent. And then last week I talked to 2 pretty consistent sponsors here at our office that'll come up here and teach classes. And I made a strong push that next year I need everything you guys do to be CE approved so I can use it from a recruitment standpoint. So I can invite other agents from outside the brokerage to come to our office to benefit that way. So they're always asking me, the sponsors, how can they provide value? And $25 gift cards is great. Lunch is great, but I need bodies. So that was a great idea last week, and I'm absolutely going to execute that for 25.
Yeah, the lunch and learn events that you guys should be doing probably 2 out of the 3 months in a quarter are just easy, low-hanging fruit just to get people in there. Because if they're anything like me, they're just scrambling at the end to get their credits. They'll come to darn near everything.
Right. Yeah. That's perfect. Yeah, I thought that was a great idea. We do lunch and learns consistently. I had never put it together as a recruitment tactic. Yeah. Right. That made all the sense in the world to me. I'm like, oh, well, that's easy. We've done that before. We just need to make it happen. So.
Yep. Wonderful. Cool. Todd, what about you? What worked? What didn't?
Well, made some successful calls. Got 2 appointments this week for existing agents to come over. Found a leak in one of the brokerages where the management team has been not as appreciative or as attentive as possible. So I'm emphasize on that. And really didn't have anything that didn't work. Did go to the brokers opens. That was very successful. One of those is where I found out about the faultiness of the management team, where they had no one from the brokerage show up at the brokers open. And I always make sure that I attend and support all of our brokers opens, unless I'm out of town or something like that. And they had no one from their brokerage, which is a large brokerage, come to their brokers open, and nothing from their broker. So kind of an eye-opening experience there.
Oh yeah. And that's why it was probably uncomfortable for Jeff to walk into an actual open house, because they have to understand that their broker probably isn't asking them, hey, how was your open house, let alone coming in and visiting. So very, 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 very good tactic. Adam, if you can unmute, what worked, what didn't from last week?
Yeah, I'm tied in with Todd there too. He does the outreach with the agents, and then I talk to them when they come into the office. And so, but I do follow suit with what Todd does when he goes to the brokers open. I also try to do the brokers opens and some of the open houses, and just go in and talk with the agents when they're doing those as well.
Okay, wonderful. And then lastly, Mr. Poteet, good afternoon, sir.
Hey, Jeff.
What worked, what didn't?
One of the recruits I've been working on, Brian knows about her for a long time, but we do a Tahlequah ladies night out every fall, the week before Thanksgiving. And so she did a drawing on Facebook of who gets the VIP poker run ladies night out situation. She picks 4, but my wife volunteered to engage in the social media post, bless her soul, and she won. And so she went out with that recruit, and they went store to store, played a little poker, and had a great conversation.
That's great.
Yeah.
Sometimes we got to deploy the other half on these folks. I love it. Yeah. That's fantastic. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, thank you again for sharing. What I wanted to unpack here real quick, obviously, I sent you guys a reminder link, if you will. And thank you guys for those who have been continuing to upload your daily activities. For the rest, just encourage you guys to continue to do that, because here's the reality. If we can't track it, we can't measure it. And if we don't have all the data, if we don't have all the input, then we're not really working in fact. So I wanted to unpack something real quick. So of the folks, and we have technically 45 entries over the last, was that 3 weeks? Yeah. We've logged, are you ready for this? 31 hours of power. That's awesome. Here's where I have a question. We've only called 124 people. So if you do the math, we're making a phone call every 15 minutes. It's 4 calls per hour. And we know from the first part of this deal, it's just one big math equation. And the more calls we make, the more dials, the more connections, the higher the probability that we can set some appointments, which leads me to the next piece is, as a group, in the 2.5, 3 weeks, we've registered and set 31 appointments. So we're setting an appointment every 5 connections, which is pretty good. But we're only attending a third of those ones. So that gets me thinking, what are we saying on the phone to set the appointment? What are we saying to get the appointment? Because if I'm being transparent, and this is where the math piece comes into play, is I can tell we're not asking the right questions. Because if I'm asking Brad the question of, hey, listen, don't you think it would be beneficial for you and I to get together so we can talk about one thing and one thing only, and that's your business? He knows it's already been set. The stage has been set that we're going to talk about his business, not my brokerage, not his brokerage.
Hey guys, sorry for the interruption. I'm going to get you right back to the video, but most of you know me as a real estate broker, or maybe somebody who's built and scaled one of the fastest growing sales organizations in the country. What you may not know is that I also work with other sales professionals and leaders that are looking to grow and scale their businesses and just live badass lives. The one place that I have everybody start, the very first spot, is the Lethal Scripts for the Sales Warrior. I'm going to give you one for free today, just so that you can get a little taste of what it is that we're doing out there. So click on the link below. We'll send you the information, and let's get back to the video.
So there's some things that I think we have an opportunity to learn here this week, especially because we have some of those scripts that you guys have already received, but I'm not quite sure we're using them the way they were intended to be used. But I say all that to say, listen, in the 11 appointments that you guys have attended, and again, this is just the reported stuff. So you're like, well, shoot, Jeff, I've been on 15 appointments myself. Just report your numbers and I'll give you the credit. We've onboarded 3. That's really good. We're onboarding every 4 appointments that we go on, we onboard somebody. So hats off to you guys. All right. But that's probably not going to get the needle moved between this group, right? Is that fair to say? Can I take that risk with you? Because what is your metric as a group? What's your weekly goal as a group from an onboarding perspective? Do we have that number? Do we have a monthly number? And I'll just divide it by how many of our folks are on this call. Come on. This is not me preaching. This is me teaching.
Mine's
So I
one
need
and a
some
half a
class
month
participation. 1.5?
per month. Yes.
Yeah, just
Let's add them all up.
Go around
Yeah,
go around the horn and get those.
Yes. Ken, what about you guys?
South Tulsa is technically 2.5 per month. 2 would be
Okay.
great, but I mean, for 2025, 3 was the goal. So
Okay. All right. Jeff?
2.
2. Renee?
A half.
You said a half?
A half.
Let's see. Todd and Adam work together. So Todd, what can you speak for the group?
Yes, our annual goal is 12, so 1 a month.
1 a month. Did I get everybody as far as,
You did that wrong.
so there's 4, 6, 7.5 for the month. Brad or Brian, does that sound about right? That would put you at 90.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Would 90 be about right as far as for the group? 90 total recruits for the year?
Yeah, and let me ask, guys, we're talking about experienced agents? We talking about from the academy?
Anybody?
Experience.
That's
I think
experienced.
we're talking about experienced would be
Okay.
the goal.
Okay.
Like I said, Jeff, we've got a real estate academy
Right.
that it's kind of softball,
Yep.
right? So when we think about recruiting, I don't consider that recruiting, because
Okay.
these are, I mean, we have like full access to these people and we can cherry pick. So that's cool. We get to do that, and we'll probably hire, based on full-time committed, going through pathways, those sort of things. We'll hire probably 60 to 80.
Okay.
Just of those people. I'd have to pull our numbers, but I think we've probably hired 70 or 80 this year.
Okay.
Academy.
Okay. So when you guys
really the focus is and
experienced,
it is the experienced agents, right? It's how do we have the conversations? How do we make the connections? How do we drive people away? Not drive them away, but how do we, push through that cracked open door, right?
Mhm.
And in a way that isn't like we're breaking shit when we do. We don't want to do that, right?
Sure.
We want to
Totally.
be smooth and just kind of stroll on in. And here we go.
Yes, absolutely. Right. I completely get it. So
I would say, I mean, let you guys tell me, are we 90? Is that the goal for for experienced agents? Is that, I mean, is that what we're going to shoot for?
Yeah. Well, when I gave 3, sorry.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah.
When I was giving my goal, I was literally just meaning experienced agents. So 3 per month times 12, 36 experienced agents for South Tulsa.
Got it.
Yeah.
Brad, you were going to say something?
Yes, I was just saying my 1.5 was experienced agents, not directly from the academy.
Okay.
So if
And
you want to
so,
include the academy, do 2.5.
okay. So if I'm looking at the onboard on the tracking form piece, the number 3 is for experienced agents. Okay. All right, great. So we've established 7.5 is our goal for the month. We're 3/4 of the way through the month and we're at 3. So we know we're off track. So what's the quickest way to get back on track? Well, I'll answer it for you since some of you guys are on mute. The answer is simply picking up the phone and doubling down. So we went through your schedule last week as well, right? Or did we? Did Todd talk about schedules last week? All right. So there's 5 things you need to do. Write this stuff down for me, please. There's 5 things you need to do every single day as a manager. And remember, our philosophy has always been we want recruiters who manage. I know that doesn't sit great with everybody, but that is just how we have to grow in this environment. So we are recruiters who manage, not managers who manage. Now, I know some of you have a partner where you're splitting duties. Totally fine. What works for you guys totally works for you guys. But at the end of the day, we're all salespeople and we're all recruiters. And so the long and the short of it is 2 hours every day you're supposed to spend prospecting. 2 hours a day you should have set aside for appointments. Have an hour in the morning, hour in the afternoon. Then in no particular order, you got to bake in an hour of marketing. And remember, from an engagement piece and the nurture piece, that is not doing flyers and stuff like that. This is the social media piece. This is whether you are putting stuff out on social or you are following all of your people, to Renee's point, on social, liking and commenting 4 words or more. Then there's the education piece, right? We've talked about this before. We have the acronym ABLE, always be learning everything. And what I mean by that is the skill set of a real estate professional today is drastically different than it was a year ago. It's drastically different than it was 4 months ago. And so we have to be super skilled in order to speak agent to these agents. They need our help. Never, ever, ever, ever downgrade that. Like, they need your help. They just don't know it yet. And then last but not least, agent connection. This is your retention efforts. So 2 hours of prospecting, 2 hours for appointments, 1 hour for marketing, 1 hour for education, 1 hour for retention efforts. And your